to go over and try and help her with some of our parliamentary procedures that we go through. One thing we're all sure of is that Ellen's probably going to be president for the next 9 meetings, so we probably would want to work with her. And like you said, she hasn't run meetings like this very much. So I think between Frank, and Aaron, who've been here a long time, and myself, we're good resources for how to handle motions, voting, things like that. And until maybe you get the hang of it, Ellen, we're happy to help out with points of information. I don't want to go through anything really formal, but I have sat through the last 8 or 9 RIRA meetings, and there were a couple things I noticed that either slow our discussion down, or prevent people a fair chance from either making motions or participating in discussion and being heard. So you can kind of take this or leave it. I'm not giving you the rules; those are written. I'm just making some suggestions. If you don't think they will be helpful, then use them. And sort of my background in this is I've worked with groups like this over maybe the last 9 or 10 years, and to help meetings go faster, make sure they get done, make sure agenda items get accomplished, and make sure nobody walks away from here with a frustrated feeling at the end of the meeting, because at the end of the day, we're all volunteers, so if the meetings don't go very well, people start to leave. And that's really how we get things done, is delegating tasks, listening to everybody. And so I'll just go through kind of a priority of things that I think are important for us regarding parliamentary procedure. The first thing is only one person should have the floor at a time. Right now I have the floor. Generally the chair is going to have the floor. And all your discussions or anything you want to say to the rest of the group needs to go through the chair, except for points of information generally and points of order. So if you have a point of information, point of order, you think we're not following the rules, or there's something that someone needs to know, then you can just basically shout those out. For everything else, generally you should be recognized by the chair. And since I'm not the chair, for example, I can't recognize Frank right now, unless you have a point of information thing.
Actually, it was a point of information about. It's not a point of information about point of information. Yes, I would like to explain something about point of information that I think is commonly misunderstood.
I do have a bullet on that. Maybe I'll borrow it to you when I get back. So that's sort of the first thing. The second thing, we should try and speak formally to the chair. So usually when I'm in a meeting like this, it sounds kind of silly when you raise your hand and get called on and say, Madam Chair. But it does take out a lot of the personal attacks and stuff that can happen when you get into the discussion. So if you always go, whenever you get called on by the chair, if you call her Madam Chair, that's a good formality to bring into this type of meeting. Just to recognize who's in control of the floor and who's passing it to who. And then the next thing I had, order of business. I think we all understand that, and we had a very nice example that we just went through here. We have an agenda for every meeting. You can provide amendments to that agenda either before the meeting to Ellen, via email or call her or meet up with her, or during the approval of the agenda, like we did or tried to do here. So keep that in mind. If there's an order of business you want to add, you should let Ellen know ahead of time, or bring it up during that part of the order of business. Generally, we should follow the order of business once it's approved. However, if you want to bring something else up, you could suspend the rules and then move to another topic if you want to. I think we don't have, the next thing is the time limit for discussion. So we're in discussion topics. What's that? Sure, informal.
About the agenda.
Yes.
If the president puts together the agenda and any recommendation she accepts, doesn't really have to be voted on. She can just say, I like that idea, let's put it in.
Well,
because until it's voted
But the agenda has to be approved, so we
I'm
are,
not saying the agenda is
Yeah.
approved. Before it's approved, the person who put together the agenda has the right to change.
yeah, so the chair kind of has discretion on the format of the agenda. Now, formally, we approve the order of business, right?
Actually, that's not really true. Once it's presented, it's owned by the committee, and the original contributor to that no longer owns it. So at that point, it's owned by the body. And so that's the reason why, and you're free to tell Madam President, whichever is the proper term, Madam President, what you'd like to have the agenda, but once she sends that out and it's distributed, then that's the thing that we're all talking about, because we all came prepared to talk about that document. So then, and I would say at that point in the meeting, rather than making it particularly formal to take on your idea, rather than making it particularly formal, the most efficient way to process agenda requests are to say, are there any changes to the agenda? Listen to them all and have the sense of, some of them are contentious, some of them are not. One I proposed was contentious, some of the other ones were not, okay? And then sort that out so you can get it down to 2 votes rather than starting off the meeting with all sorts of procedural acrobatics. Right.
So I think for now, we have a general format for our agenda. If you want something on the agenda, you can either add it in the meeting or talk to Ellen before she sends it out for meetings.
And I think it also says here, just so we've been doing this for a long while, it says next meeting, okay, mailing deadline. That's the date that you need to get in your documents that go into the agenda. Also, that's the last date to get in your agenda request.
Thank you, Frank. The next thing, I've recommended to Ellen that she set a time limit every time we have a discussion for each speaker. I know, in our rules, I think we have a time limit of 10 minutes per person, but I think at the discretion of the chair, she can set a limit of 1 minute, which is sort of what she tried to do in the previous discussion. If anyone wants to set one as council, we can do that. 1 minute isn't enough. Or we can set it for longer or shorter, and you can change it on every discussion topic. So keep that in mind. In terms of making motions, every motion should be made unless it's a point of information or a point of order and point of personal preference. Any other motion, you need to be recognized by the chair to make. And generally, once you're recognized by the chair and you make that motion, that's the motion that's on the table and we have to handle that motion before we do anything else. Now, some motions can be made, like previous question, when you're dealing with a motion, you're in a discussion, you can make another motion to the previous question and end debate. So some motions can go on top of other motions, some motions can't. I'm not going to go through all that. It's provided in the documentation that Frank set out and in our rules. So just so you're aware that that's sort of the procedure for handling motions. I've asked Ellen to repeat every motion that's made, and it's just going to take a little while for us all to catch on to doing that. So everyone's clear on what part of the motion we're on. So what motion we're having, whether we're having a discussion on that motion, and whether we're voting on that motion. And she's going to try and repeat the motion that was made, both at the start of discussion and right before we vote on it, so that we're clear on what we're voting for. And if we can be patient with her and kind of getting the rhythm of that, I think that would help us get through this a little bit faster. Also, I recommended for motions that she give the author an opening and closing statement, and that can be limited to a minute, so the author gets to explain that motion. So they state the formal language of the motion, and then after the floor is opened up for discussion, they're the first and last ones to talk on that motion for that discussion, so that they kind of have the description of what they're trying to do, both at the beginning and before we vote. In terms of debate and discussion, we're here to debate issues, not personalities, and a lot of us have strong personalities, so the more you can not refer to people by names, you can refer to people to the previous speaker, or refer refer to their ideas. I think that will also help get us to a decision faster rather than getting frustrated with what each of us think. I've also talked to Ellen about alternating between pro and non-speakers. So if we have a pretty lively discussion, she's going to try and identify a pro speaker and then a con speaker. So we're not hearing the pro side over and over or the con side over and over. And when we run out of pro and con speakers, she'll take one or two more, but then she's going to use her discretion to end discussion on that topic to try and move the motions and discussion forward. I think we've already sort of touched on some motions. The two big ones that we use a lot are probably previous question, which requires a second, 2/3 majority, and it's not debatable. The rest of the motions that we make are typically need discussion and generally can get passed with a simple majority. So if you keep those two things in mind, I mean, that's not the hard fast rule, that's in our rules, that covers everything, but that'll get you 90% of the way when you're making motions and you want to know how to vote. Yes? Okay, so one of the main motions that we'll make like during discussion will be previous question. That requires a 2/3 majority. And it also requires a second, and it's not debatable. So you get the second and then you vote on it. Yeah, it's both in Frank's information and my information. Probably not. Yeah.
Just say it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can probably give her some. I can give her. It probably doesn't have to go in the minutes. You know, all this stuff.
I'd like to respectfully request that during discussion time, that if someone has made a point that you agree with, could you state I concur, and then any additional information that you'd like to add, but not to state the same thing over again when we're going through people discussing the issue, so that they can say I concur with the previous speaker and that additional item that they'd like to add, but not to rehash exactly what the person said prior to that.
Yeah. So what she's saying is, if someone's already said what you were going to say, you don't need to repeat it. You can say you agree with the previous.
I concur.
I concur, and this is what else I have to add.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Government organizations now, because the motion on the floor, and there's discussion about how far the resolution changes this way, and this was the made motion, the secretary says that we didn't have to vote to change the motion. You said in your information that
So like a friendly amendment is what you're saying. So you can offer a friendly amendment, and that sort of depends on the organization. You should have a unanimous consent at least, or ask for unanimous consent on a friendly amendment, even if someone may disagree with it, even if you think it's friendly, for example. Yeah.
It's covered in my contribution there, but there's no such thing as a friendly amendment. Okay, it's a shorthand for a nod and a wink, but it doesn't require everyone to agree that, let's say, Brandon had made a motion for, I'd like to spend $300 on Christmas lights or whatever, holiday lights, and then someone says, and someone says it should not be Christmas lights, it's holiday lights. Is that a friendly amendment? We all need to agree to that, and if not, then you do a formal amendment and see whether or not it's accepted.
Yeah. So I mean, we can decide that as a group. If you want to make a motion that will accept friendly amendments, amend the rules, you can do that. I think we're not that formal, but we have to vote on everything. So we get unanimous consent. That should work in that case. Voting, we'll try and take voice votes on non-controversial issues and simple motions. But remember, you can always call division. So if you think a voice vote wasn't clear who won, at any time you can call it division, and then we'll take a hand count and vote. So in some cases Ellen is going to ask for a voice vote. In some cases, she's going to ask for a hand vote. If you think that we need a better count, you yell out division, and she'll do a recount, basically, of the vote, so that we're clear on what the decision was. The last thing is discretion of the chair, which is really kind of a vague concept, but the chair in this type of meeting does have this discretion to make some decisions. So she may do that at some point in time. I think, between me and Frank and Aaron, we'll call her out if we think that, she's making a decision that overreaches what we think needs discussion. But sometimes that's done to kind of speed up the flow of the meeting. So she may use the discretion of the chair to limit debate to 1 minute, or use the discretion of the chair to end debate. That's against the rules, but if no one objects to it or makes a point of order, we can certainly run the meetings that way. The last thing, all these rules and documents, there's different pieces provided by Ellen in her emails. Frank is a great resource, Aaron's a great resource. We're happy to help, and even during a meeting, if you want to make a motion or discuss something, just get up and come talk to us, and we'll help you do that if you're not sure how. And then finally, if we can work with Ellen, I know how difficult the chair job is, especially if you haven't done it before. So give her a couple meetings, and hopefully by February, March, then all this stuff's going a lot faster. The chair's not going away. There's no one else who's doing that job, so let's try to work with her as much as we can.
There's the book, Robert's Rules for Dummies.
Yep.
Do you like it? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, all this like the summaries of Robert's Rules of Order, they're pretty easy to read through, and they're actually kind of fun and interesting. So yeah, I would recommend those. They're short too, and we should be having fun at these meetings too. In my opinion.
You don't look like you're having fun.
Me? Oh. Right.
I just wanted to start with one thing and say, Ms. Chambers, because I think that's formally what I would like to call them, is can I make some clarification?
Sure, yeah.
I can speak like this, and I think I would prefer to only because it's,
There are people over the side here.
yeah, okay. This is going to be, I want to talk about something that I've seen in the past sort of 16 years of doing this here, okay? I just want to sort of nip it in the bud, okay? First of all, I want to talk about 3 things. Point of personal privilege, point of order, point of information, okay? Because these are commonly misunderstood. Let's talk about point of personal privilege, okay? At the last meeting, someone said, that thing over there, that heater or whatever it is, okay, is making too much noise and I can't hear it, okay? That's an example of a point of personal privilege. There might be people knocking out at the front door there. So points of personal privilege are pretty much things that you really need to deal with instantaneously because it involves the full participation of each of the members. And that means it's something that's not abused. It's really about there's noise, light, heat, something that's immediately dealing with our ability to participate. Second thing is point of order, okay? Now I did a point of order in the first, early on in the meeting, which was we're supposed to count the yes, the no, abstain in that, and only one had done. So I raised my hand, said point of order, okay? And then I clarified the thing that was not in order, which was we need to take all 3 shows of hands at that. And maybe other points of order that come up. But when you do a point of order, it's not to stop the meeting, it's to identify procedurally what's going wrong at that moment. So as soon as you're recognizing, and when you said point of order, the next thing that's coming out of your mouth is largely parliamentary procedure language. Here's something we didn't follow right. Or maybe the bylaws. I mean, that we have to follow that in the Constitution too. But it's something procedural that we didn't do right. That's a point of order. The last thing on this is point of information. Okay, this is one of the just say, so, and this is the official Robert's Rules, it's the 11th edition. It's the official one, it's the one that's cited in our Constitution bylaws. Point of information always has to be framed in a question, okay? So there's someone going on, I'm going to think I'm bringing it, she's sitting right next to me. Okay, but let's say she's speaking, okay? I want to add a point because I know she's missed something, okay? My job to raise a point of information is to frame it in a question, okay? Could you tell us what color Christmas lights you wanted, as opposed to saying the Christmas lights should be blue, or something like that. So I'm not supplying information when I have a point of information. I'm asking about information to be supplied. And then and the reason for framing it as a question is then we get out of the tactic that happens to happen many times is it's a way to get in a little debate comment. It's also a way to interrupt the person, okay? And to get them off of their speaking because, you know what, all of us, okay, when we're thinking in our mind and we're speaking, we got that going, and getting the interruption sometimes loses our train of thought because we're not sitting here with papers. Okay, so those are the three things. On hearing all the participants, okay, everyone has a right to be heard to make their point in a debate, and also to rebut what they've heard. So you really have the right to be heard twice. Okay? Now, Mr. Shinsaki has said that you should abbreviate things. That's a great idea. And we really have, we realize, I don't know how many people are here, I think that's 45. If everyone got to speak twice, we'd be here 90 minutes, you know, on a motion, most likely. Okay. Mr. Edwards had said something, I'm going to that I have in here, naming of members. Okay, so just looking across left to right here, we have Mr. Treasurer, Mr. Vice President, Madam President, and Madam Secretary. Okay, so that's their titles. That's their titles. That's what it says in our organization. So we refer to them by their titles. Madam President. Okay, and we do that to show respect, and also since in that discussion when you're going back and forth, it may be the case that I need to point to someone previously, not literally point, but refer to someone previously. So I'd want to say, I agree with Mr. Hamburger's comment as opposed to the gentleman 17 seats to the right of me. I think, and if you don't remember the last name, then the first name, but it's meant to be courteous and respectful by using that kind of language. And then the last thing I want to say is on voting, which is the way we speed things up is that if there's we have to make motions to enshrine decisions that we've made as a committee. So the motion has to be there for certain things. We can't just start a meeting saying, gee, there's a general buzz on the agenda. There's got to be a motion to approve that agenda. Now, we might all agree with it at that point. And many times, when, like for the minutes, for example, we'll go around taking corrections. Okay, there's this thing that was spelled wrong. We missed this point. Fine. At the end of that, is there any objection to approval of the minutes with the unanimous approval of approving the minutes with amendments, assuming there was changes proposed? That then gets it done, and we don't have to raise our hands. We can just say, is there any objection to unanimous approval? Wait about 5 seconds. Hearing none. The chair says, hearing none, then that motion is approved. Okay? Now, if there is objection, there's nothing wrong with raising your hand. It's just at that point, we're going to take an actual vote. Okay? And I think I've covered everything.
So, the point of the recess